Welcome back. You're watching the Hot7 Nightly News. The leader of the opposition remained resolute on Tuesday as he fielded questions from the press on statements made regarding the government's loan request from the National Insurance Corporation. Philip J. Pierre said the $100 million loan posed a threat to the security of pensioners, a claim that is vehemently denied by the government. Here's Hot7's Rochelle Gonzalez with more in this report.
In what may seem to be a case of back and forth, the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party has once again rebutted a new statement made by Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Eubaldus Raymond, in a bridge loan facility involving the National Insurance Corporation. Following a statement made by the opposition 1 week ago and a response from Dr. Raymond on Monday, opposition leader Philip J. Pierre has issued another rebuttal, taking a firm stance by saying his party will not back down. The St. Lucia Labour Party, he said, makes no apology for requesting answers to questions that concern the taxpayers of St. Lucia.
We will always give special attention to the hard-earned savings at the National Insurance Corporation of the pensioners of our island. We note the arrogant and mudslinging response of Eubaldus Raymond. In his usual style, he attempts to attack and vilify the opposition for asking pertinent questions on behalf of the people of St. Lucia. The St. Lucia Labour Party will never be silenced by intimidation, threats, or the vindictiveness of the United Workers' Party.
Despite Dr. Raymond's accusations of fear-mongering by the opposition, Pierre said his party's demand for answers will not relent. In fact, the opposition leader issued another list of questions demanding answers on behalf of the people.
What are the names of the persons, companies, or institutions that purchased bonds in the most recent sale of the St. Lucia government bonds? 2. Did the St. Lucia National Insurance purchase additional shares in the latest sale, thus increasing the NIC holdings of St. Lucia government bonds? Did the St. Lucia NIC roll over any of the St. Lucia government bonds that they had originally held in that most recent transaction? Did the St. Lucia government purchase $5 million worth of their own bonds in the latest sale of bonds? What is the balance of the sinking fund at the 30th of June 2018?
Pierre stressed the need for answers in order for the public to have an accurate and truthful picture of the situation regarding the earnings of the people of St. Lucia. Reporting for Hot7 Nightly News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
1 week after a high-level Venezuelan delegation met with St. Lucia's National Security Minister to discuss the implementation of visa restrictions on Venezuelan nationals, another country is looking to protect its borders from the South American natives. A Brazilian federal court has ordered a block on Venezuelans crossing the border from the economically imploding country. The region of Brazil most affected has seen its numbers of inhabitants swell by nearly 8% with the arrival of some 25,000 Venezuelans over the past 2 years. It is estimated that around 500 a day cross into Brazil. In the first half of this year, 56,740 Venezuelans sought legal status to stay in Brazil, with over 35,000 of them applying for refugee status. Meanwhile, the St. Lucia Labour Party is maintaining its opposition to the visa impositions on Venezuelans who wish to travel to St. Lucia. Alva Baptiste spoke during an SLP press conference today.
Mr. Chasney argues that it was for security reasons. He insinuated that the 60 homicides in 2017, as well as the amount of guns coming into St. Lucia, had to do with the mass movement of the said nationals towards the Caribbean. The fact is, we do not have a problem with Venezuelan nationals at our ports of entry. Hence, the imposition of visa facilities on Venezuelan nationals has nothing to do with the security interests of St. Lucia and St. Lucians. Therefore, the Prime Minister needs to clarify this allegation as he seems clueless on issues of national security.
Condemning the recent assassination attempt against President Nicolas Maduro, Baptiste said a re-elected SLP would remove the immigration impediments.
The opposition states categorically that upon our resumption of office, we shall reinstate the visa-free access facility to Venezuelan nationals. Further, we condemn in the strongest possible language any attempts to assassinate a democratically elected leader in our hemisphere or in any other part of the world.
The Department of Sports has taken a bold step to incorporate the use of data in the shaping of its policies. Officials on Tuesday launched a survey designed to assess the importance of sports to the development of the society.
The Ministry of Sports, in collaboration with the Department of Statistics and National Lottery Authorities, will embark upon a National Sports and Recreation Survey. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Donovan Williams, delved into the use of empirical data to develop a strategy that would best assist in formalizing an overall policy approach to sporting infrastructure, sports, and recreation.
From the ministry standpoint, and for some time now, we have had a lot of discussion about how we formalize an overall approach to sports development in St. Lucia. And we have certainly come to the conclusion that we need to have an evidence-based approach to developing such a policy framework. We have initiated part of that strategy through a sports infrastructure strategy and action plan, which sought to systematically identify the facilities on island, grade them with a view to then determining how they should be upgraded and rationalized.
Advanced data collection technology is set to be used for the National Sport and Recreation Survey, and Mr. St. Catherine offers further insight into the costing and technological efforts that will be employed.
We went through all of these issues, right, with the enumerators. We tweaked the instrument further, and then we've decided on a strategy of going throughout the island, picking specific areas based on a strategy so that we get a very good solid sample of about 2,000 individuals, somewhere in the region of 800 or 900 households, over 2,000 individuals, a sample that is well distributed throughout the island and represents every district relative to its size and so on. And so we would be confident in the information that we produce from that.
Mr. St. Catherine and Mr. Williams urged the public to collaborate with the enumerators who will be conducting the survey in order to facilitate an easy process for data collection. They both echoed the importance of the findings, stating that the results of the survey will be used as a reference point to enact change in next year's budget. Reporting for Hot7 TV, I am Solaj Alfred.
The St. Lucia National Trust is working in collaboration with the Jurel Wildlife Conservation Trust to help conserve the St. Lucia racer species, believed to be the rarest snake in the world. The St. Lucia racer's global population is about 20, and all of the snakes are found at Maria Major. The two organizations are aiming to create satellite populations of the rare snake. Over the years, the Trust has done much work to prevent invasive species from going on to Maria Major in hopes of conserving the racer population. Rats and mongoose are a major threat to the rare snakes. Strict monitoring is done by the Trust to prevent a situation where invasive species make it onto the island. Strict biosecurity controls are also in place for people visiting the island, but the Executive Director of the National Trust, Vishnu Tulsi, says there is need for more to be done, and this is where Jurel Wildlife Conservation Trust comes in.
With such a small population, it is still under threat. So we have a long-term plan to create satellite populations. We are currently looking at Dennery Island as one possible place. We have worked with Dorel to remove the goats. There were lots of goats and toads on the island, Dennery Island. We removed those along with the owners of the sheep, and the vegetation is now coming back. We have introduced some lizards there, which is a food source for the racer. And once the vegetation is properly established, we will then work towards introducing satellite population, but that's an expensive process.
Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust has launched a fundraising effort to facilitate the intensive scientific research that needs to happen even before the red snake can be introduced to other areas outside of Maria Major. The trust is also looking at other possible satellite populations.
We have to understand the life cycle of the snake. We have to understand their breeding habits and begin to breed the snake, perhaps in captivity with the help of Dorel, but maybe naturally. We have not come to that point as yet. But the studies are ongoing in terms of the biology of the snake and its life cycle. Yeah. Once those things are established, we will then be in a position to create satellite populations so that if something happens on Maria Major, the snake is not lost.
Speaking on the limitations that the trust faces with raising its own funds by using the rarity of the snake as a visitor attraction, Tulsi explains that Maria Islands cannot welcome tourists and visitors en masse. That, he says, would endanger the very species and ecosystem that they are trying to protect. And finally from us, the Suffolk Regional Development Foundation, SRDF, will undertake a project at the Sulphur Springs Park in an effort to enhance the services offered. The project will include the construction of 3 additional pools, a deck, additional storage, and changing rooms. According to the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Lester Casabor, there has been an increase in demand for pools for a relatively long time. He further noted that the additional pools will reduce the amount of congestion on very busy days to afford visitors an uncompromised service. The works will commence on Wednesday, the 8th of August, 2018. Consequently, access to the Blackwater pool will come to a halt at 3 p.m. That ends our news package for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Good night.